The Thursday Ethan Walker walked into his grandmother's small sunlit house in Oregon felt ordinary in every way that mattered. The kind of afternoon that carried no warning of how deeply it would settle into his memory later. Because his only intention was to help prepare for a simple community fundraiser, to move boxes, string decorations, listen to his grandmother chatter about neighbors and schedules, and then head home without thinking twice. Yet the moment he stepped inside and saw Claire Dawson already there, kneeling near a stack of cardboard boxes with her sleeves rolled up, and that familiar calm warmth in her expression, something inside him shifted in a way he had never fully allowed himself to acknowledge, because Claire had always existed in that quiet space between familiarity and distance. His grandmother's closest friend, a steady presence at gatherings and holidays. Someone who remembered small details and carried herself with a gentle strength that made the world around her feel slower, kinder, and though he greeted her politely, warmly, as he always did, and she returned it with her soft laugh and easy smile. The air between them felt subtly different, charged with a closeness he couldn't name, especially once his grandmother stepped outside to take a phone call, leaving them alone in the golden afternoon light that poured through the curtains and turned dust motes into something almost magical. And as they sorted decorations together, joking lightly about Claire's lack of artistic talent and Ethan's clumsy attempts to untangle ribbons, the room felt comfortable, almost intimate, in a way that made time stretch, until the moment everything changed in the simplest, most unexpected way. When Ethan bent to retrieve a fallen ribbon and heard the sudden scrape of fabric against carpet, followed by a sharp intake of breath. And when he looked up, he saw Claire's foot twist on the edge of a loose rug, her balance falter, her body tipping just enough to trigger pure instinct in him, and before either of them could think it, he lunged forward and caught her by the arms, steadying her against the wall as her breath trembled and her knees buckled his hands. Firm but careful as he held her upright, feeling the surprise ripple through her feeling, the sudden closeness snap into place between them, and though she didn't scream, the quiet gasp she let out echoed in his chest as he told her softly, "It's okay, I've got you," hoping his voice sounded calmer than he felt, because the moment she tried to put weight on her foot and winced, letting out a small pained sound, he instinctively held her closer, refusing to let her fall, guiding her more securely against the wall as she whispered that she couldn't move yet, and those simple words changed the atmosphere entirely, pulling them into a still, private space where the world seemed to pause, where Ethan became acutely aware of everything at once. The warmth of her arms beneath his hands, the way her breath brushed his collar as she tried to steady herself, the faint scent of vanilla, and clean laundry in her hair, and Claire, usually so composed, looked flushed and embarrassed, her eyes avoiding his not out of fear but because she was vulnerable in a way he had never seen before. Unable to pull away without risking another fall, forced to remain close, to lean into his support, and as he reassured her again and again that she was okay, that she wasn't a burden, that he was glad he'd been there, he felt the tension in her body slowly ease even as her ankle trembled. And when she tried again to stand on her own, only to falter, her hand gripped his shirt without meaning to, tugging him just a fraction closer, a small accidental pull that made his heartbeat stumble because it wasn't dramatic or deliberate, just real in a way that unsettled him, and though he focused on keeping her safe, on guiding her gently, the closeness wrapped around his chest tightening. With every second, and when she apologized again in a quiet whisper, and he told her to lean on him until she was ready, she nodded, letting herself relax into his hold. Her fingers still curled lightly in his shirt, as if she didn't fully trust her legs. Yet, but trusted him completely. And as the sunlight shifted across her hair, and she tried once more to stand only to wince sharply, he tightened his grip again without hesitation, hearing the tremor in her voice when she admitted she still couldn't. Something inside him softened, something protective and unfamiliar, and in that slowed moment with her pressed gently against him, he noticed every tiny detail, the warmth of her shoulder against his chest, the way her hand trembled slightly, the quiet humanity of her pain, and it wrapped around him in a way he couldn't ignore. And when he suggested moving slowly to the sofa and she agreed, trusting him, he guided her step by careful step, his hand steady on her back, hers, gripping his arm, each small movement carrying more weight than it should have, every flinch making him pause, speak softly, reassure her until they reached the sofa, and he helped her sit, relief softening her features. Just as his grandmother returned cheerful and unaware, and the sudden shift back to normalcy felt jarring as Claire quickly released his arm, smoothing her hair, straightening her blouse, trying to hide how flustered she felt, while Ethan stepped back, his pulse still racing, and as his grandmother fussed over Claire's ankle, wrapping it, offering advice, Claire sat quietly, grateful but embarrassed, avoiding Ethan's eyes until the room fell silent again, and she finally looked at him with a softness full of gratitude and unspoken emotion, thanking him in a low voice that made his chest feel heavy, because the moment against the wall had changed something, even if neither of them knew what to do with it yet. And as the afternoon wore on, with his grandmother moving in and out of the room, Claire resting with her ankle propped up, Ethan found himself noticing things he had ignored for years. The way she carried both strength and loneliness, the way she hated feeling dependent, the quiet ache beneath her words when she admitted she wasn't used to being helped, and when he told her gently that it was okay to lean on someone sometimes, that even strong people needed that. Her smile carried both warmth and sadness, and in the pauses between conversation, the connection lingered, unspoken but undeniable, growing heavier each time their eyes met, each time her gratitude deepened into something more personal, until she tried to stand again later, insisting she didn't want to be an inconvenience, only for her ankle to betray her once more. And she instinctively grabbed his shirt, pulling him close as she whispered about the pain, and he caught her again without thinking. guiding her back, steady and sure, telling her she didn't need to apologize, that he didn't mind, that she could lean on him. And for a moment, with her breath catching against his chest and her fingers curled into his sleeve, time slowed again, her vulnerability meeting his quiet resolve, and as he helped her to a chair, lowering her carefully, adjusting the cushion, she caught his wrist lightly, stopping him just long enough to thank him again, her voice deeper, more vulnerable than before, and they held each other's gaze in a fragile stillness that felt like it could shatter if interrupted, until his grandmother's footsteps broke the spell, and the day returned to polite conversation and practical concerns. Yet something remained, something neither of them pretended not to feel, because even as Ethan busied himself tidying boxes and Claire tried to act composed, their glances kept finding each other, and in the quiet moments she admitted she felt lonely sometimes, like she lived in the background, always helping, rarely being helped, and Ethan listened, telling her honestly that she deserved to be seen, that he noticed her kindness and strength more than she realized, words that made her eyes shine as she looked down, whispering that it was kind of him to say. And as the afternoon light softened and the house filled with a gentle calm, Claire admitted that the day had surprised her, that closeness could arrive without warning. And Ethan agreed quietly, feeling the same truth settle into his chest. Because they both knew something had started, something subtle and real, born from an ordinary accident and an instinctive act of care. And though neither of them spoke it aloud, both carried the same understanding as the day drew on, that the moment against the wall, the warmth, the trust, the quiet gratitude had shifted the rhythm of their lives in a way that wouldn't fade, that this wasn't something to be forgotten or brushed aside, but the beginning of a feeling that would linger long after the boxes were put away and the house returned to silence. Something that had grown not from intention, but from humanity, from being there when it mattered. And as Ethan finally stepped outside to help his grandmother and Claire sat back, touching her chest as if to steady her emotions, they both knew the same thing without saying it, that Thursday afternoon had changed something between them, and whatever came next, it would be impossible to pretend it hadn't.